we're really happy that you all are here. What's so wonderful about having a local following with Nehemiah is that we can reach out to people and they can show up. Although we have supporters from all over, it's just great to know that the majority of our partners are right here locally. So there are a couple of things that we want to talk about today that we'll just sort of jump right in. The first being Trump has shut down Nehemiah. I figured after that everything's easy, so that's not true. That's not the case. I figured after that everything is easy. Oh, someone said, what did he say? Nothing. That's not true. I'm just laughing. It's just a joke. I feel like no one's in trouble, no one's hurt, no one's fired yet. No, but the big news is we wanted to talk to partners. I just wanted to be able to sit here with you all up front to let you know that I have officially retired as Nehemiah's president. As of May 1st or today, whenever you start counting. Yes. And we're really fortunate because Harry Hawkins is going to be succeeding me as Nehemiah's CEO and president.
Thank you.
He finally got his wish and pushed the old black guy out the door.
No.
Oh, I know. I should have known when he came in to volunteer at the front desk as a receptionist that he was scouting out his offices and his place. No, but I have to say I am really, really pleased. I am so pleased. And so that's really what we want to talk about. We want to make this known in the public. But that's an announcement that I made at our very last board meeting. Well, let me just say a couple of things, then I'll get back into the court. One is, this is something that's really great. And I've wondered what this would look like and what it would feel like. When we started talking about Nehemiah in the late 80s, I had no idea that for the next 35 years, my identity would be so tied into being Nehemiah's CEO and founder. And I have to admit, once the board made the motion, I was like, oh my gosh, this is real, it's official. But then later that evening, my head was still excited, but I felt real sadness in my chest. I had to just go for a long drive. And I jokingly said, I made a mistake. I changed my mind. I want to go back. I started clicking my heels. And I realized that it's just a nostalgia of having thought about this and dreamed about it and planned of it for so long. And those of you that have been donors for a long time, folks that have been volunteers forever, staff for a long time, you knew I'd be getting older and I'd be trying to figure out how to juggle all of these things. I've been juggling being the senior pastor at Fountain of Life Church and Nehemiah's CEO for 35 years. And then you add the planning of the center on, which I'll talk about a little bit later, particularly during COVID, was just a lot. It was a lot. And there's something about turning 60 and then turning 61 that just makes you think about how do you move ahead in this? And so I'm just really fortunate to have been able to see Harry's strengths, to nurture his leadership, to support him, and to watch his interaction with staff, and to really care about the staff, to care about the community, and to care about the mission is really a fortunate thing, particularly for someone who didn't grow up in Wisconsin, in Madison, or in this culture. And so I'm real excited about it. We're going to have some time a little bit later, I think, for questions, take questions from you all. But I just wanted to let you know that's what we want to talk to you about, and I feel very excited about the transition. So let me just let that settle there for just a few minutes. So Harry and I are going to interview each other a little bit, just talk. You all able to still hear me okay? So we're going to talk with each other just a little bit, so you can hear some dialogue about this handoff, this baton passing. But I just have a couple of general questions for Harry, just making sure that our donors and partners feel good about this move as well.
And I have no idea what he's going to ask either. So we're all going to find out together. We'll see what's going to happen here.
So Harry comes here with a plethora of experience, particularly in management, retail management. He's done some of everything. He's a true Renaissance man. Harry, over the years, how many people have you fired?
Woof. After so many, you just stop counting. I don't know. Yeah, at one point, my daughter years ago did a imitation of me at the dinner table. She's like, "This is Daddy at work. You hired, you fired. You hired, you fired." And I was like, well, it's kind of true. So, I grew up in the mean streets of retail sales. So, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Man, over the years, Harry, though, seriously, you've hired way more people than those you fired. How many people will you say, aggregately, you've supervised or managed over the course of your career?
Wow, I would probably say maybe about 50 or 60.
So he's coming with so much experience. When you moved to Madison, how many years ago?
13 in August.
To be a supervisor, to manage Jared's. One, did you ever see yourself out of retail, and did you see yourself in Madison long term?
Well, no. My initial plan was to be here for a year or maybe two, and then go back to Georgia. Right? We see that didn't happen. Matter of fact, I didn't even change my phone number because I was like, no, I'm going back. I'll be here, do a good job at the Madison location, and the district manager in Georgia. We had already talked about how I was coming back. Like it was our plan, and so no, I did not see myself in Madison long term. And two, I wanted a way out of retail, but I could not find a path out. It's one of those things where even one of my mentors, friends, and now relative, actually, my brother-in-law. I remember he tried to leave retail, got a master's degree in human resources, but couldn't find a job in human resources, despite being probably one of the best trainers I've ever worked with. And so it was tough to transition because people don't value transferable skills. And so if you haven't been in that industry, it's hard to get into it. So really, I was just trying to make enough money so my kids wouldn't have the same experience I did growing up. That was my whole goal. I didn't really have much more than that. Like that was the most I could hope for.
Another question is, what is the most Madisonian hobby, food, activity that you've adopted that surprises you, being a good Georgian?
Most Madison. Okay, I would probably say, and this is thanks to my wife, but we visit a lot of parks and do a lot of like outdoor walking, exploring. And so like when you tell people from Georgia, like, yeah, what'd you do today? Oh, went to a park and walked around. They're like, what? Like that was your trip? Like that was your excursion? Was you drove an hour and you went to another park or you went to another body of water? And so I don't think people outside of Madison understand I would say how much nature is a part of the experience of being a Madisonian. So it's hard to really translate that experience. But yeah, I would say that because, you would go to the park if you're going to have a cookout or you're playing a game, something like that. But like the park wasn't the destination in Atlanta. Like you're not, maybe the botanical gardens or something, but you're not just going to the park like as a date or time with people. Like that's not typically what people do.
Oh, that's good. And
at least not black people.
I have one more question, then we can jump into interviewing each other. I know that you're a values-based individual, and Nehemiah has values that's governed our work for the past, 3+ decades. Can you think of maybe one that jumped out at you as you joined the team that made you feel that resonates with me? I can connect here. I can grow here.
I would say the phrase lived experience comes to mind, but I think we typically use that in a very narrow meaning where we think we're talking about people who are formerly incarcerated or people who have experienced X, Y, Z. But there's something about Nehemiah's value about valuing people that they bring. We really honor the experience that people have because they've lived. And so what I found here was that I wasn't sure if what I had was valuable to a nonprofit. And I found that not only was my skill set valuable, but I could be my whole self. And I had never had a job in my life where I could bring all of me and it was accepted. And so for me, that allowed parts of me to flourish that had caused me problems in other jobs. Because when you're implementation specialist, you figure out how to make things work. Sometimes people don't want to hear that their plans that came from corporate aren't as good as they could be. So, so for me, it was that idea that we value people, and it's not just a phrase we write down somewhere. It's baked into how we do our work and how we make our programs and how we interact with each other, with funders, with donors. So for me, that was a natural way to live. So it felt like home, felt like the right place to be.
I like that. So are we going to be okay? You think we can vote a thumbs up on the guy? Okay. All right. I appreciate that. All right. So Harry, just in general, man, how are you feeling? And then I've been asking you lots of questions. So if you have anything for me, you can ask as well. But just in general, how are you feeling about this transition? So
excited about the transition and nervous. And it's almost like those two feelings are driving, like they're fighting over who's going to be in the driver's seat. So like this morning I got up and I was like, all right, time to get out of the bed. And I was just sitting there and I was like, you can't stay here all day. You have to tell people what we're doing, right? Because it's easy being number two. It's easy saying, listen, the boss said we got to do this stuff, so we got to do it. It's no problem. And now people are like, so what are we doing? I'm like, oh, you want me to answer that question? Got it. Oh, the board wants to. Oh, I have to. Yeah. Somebody asked me like, hey, so what's going to change about your day to day? Now that you made this transition, what's going to change day to day? I was like, well, maybe more anxiety. I was like, I don't know. So I would say for me, really, excited because one of the things that this wasn't just like a snap decision. There's been elements of transition that you've woven in and really allowed me to grow into being even in the running for this position or to be considered for it. But the idea that now I can take my version of your vision and make that a reality is exciting. I've never had that freedom. Typically in jobs I had in the past, very corporate, they had an idea which was basically squeeze as much money out of these turnips, much blood out of these turnips as you can, and don't complain about it. And so there was no wiggle room for any other voice or ideas. And so it was basically just do what they say do it well, and then you're good. So the idea that someone would give me the opportunity to like take the reins and like do things with it is exciting. It's also humbling because when I first kind of came into the orbit of Nehemiah, I had been fired from a job because I wasn't passionate enough, which is a complaint I get all the time. I'm sure you all can tell just looking at me like this guy is a little too reserved. But yeah, it was interesting. I was looking for work. I tried to start my own business, but people didn't think I was professional enough. They didn't think I was knowledgeable enough in my field. And so I couldn't get an in-person interview for management. And I remember my wife heard me. I was doing a phone interview one time, and I was nailing this interview. I was nailing it, and I just knew I was going to get this job. And I hung up, and I'm beaming. I'm like, oh man, I feel like I just slam dunked. I'm hanging from the hoop, like, yeah, I did that. And my wife says, "You're not getting that job." I was like, "What?" I was like, "You talking about? I nailed the interview." She said, "Yeah, you need to tone that down." She said they're going to be scared that you're going to take their job. They're not going to hire you. They're scared of you. And I was like, no. And sure enough, them people did not call me back. And so anyhow, it was like I was in a place where for the first time in my life, I wondered if I had spent a lifetime up to that point developing skills that no one wanted. And what amazed me about Madison is that it claims it is progressive and wants Black talent, Black excellence, and all those things. But with a bachelor's degree, 10 years of experience, folder full of accolades, I couldn't even get in front of a person to explain why I believed I was a good fit for the job. And so you interviewed me. Well, it was funny. I did show up to the church to volunteer because I was looking for work. I was like, well, I'm just here playing video games after I submit these resumes. Let me just do something, meaningful with the time. But and I asked like for some referrals to see. I was like, maybe Pastor G knows some black people who will think of me as professional, and that'll help me with what I'm doing. And so I showed up. He said, yeah, I got an idea. I didn't know that's a code word for we're not doing that. That is Dr. G for no but. So which is good though. It worked out well for me. But yes, I mean, I think for me, there's a debt of gratitude that I have, that I cannot repay those things to you, so I can only give them away. I can only give them to other people. I can only invest in our staff that we have, the next generation of leaders, because it's amazing how after a few years of being in Madison, coming from what some people call one of the black meccas, Atlanta area, how even just a few years of living in Madison made me internalize those issues as I wasn't worthy enough. I wasn't good enough for my skill set wasn't needed. And so for the people who grew up here and live here, how much more do they have to overcome to really be impactful? So for me, there's a lot of, for me, it's a great responsibility. So there's humility, there's fear because I don't want to mess it up, right? It's all right, can I do this? Peter walking on the water, all right, I'm out here now. Oh Lord, am I going to sink? What's going to happen? But the cool thing is though, is that the framework that you've created is not just about a dynamic leader, it's transformational leadership. So there's so many leaders around you that are here to help me do the work. I don't have to do all of it. I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have all the pieces. So for me, that's a long answer, but that's good. Excited, nervous, thankful, all those things all at once. So it's like a punch. It's like an emotional punch, with a little kick in it.
That's right.
But let me ask you the same question. How are you feeling? You talked a little bit about that, but I mean, this is a big change, right? So how are you feeling? It's been about a week since the board made the decision. But yeah, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good about it today. That first day was tough because I didn't see it coming, and I realized I'm nostalgic. So it's not as if I question the thought, because as Harry mentioned, we've been talking about this, and I've been dreaming about it, thinking about it closely. Monday, staff, they threw a party, and I actually thought it was to celebrate Harry's new role, and it was in part, but I wasn't prepared for staff to share words with me about their experience with me. So I wasn't thinking that at all. So I'm like, hey, I'm running from this other meeting. I'm gonna be a few minutes late. And I got here, it's the party hasn't started. Harry's here. This is so disrespectful. And so I saw the cake and it said for 2 leaders. And I thought, oh, this is to appreciate my work also. Not that I didn't think anybody would do it. I just thought down the road we'll have a reception or something. But when I listened to staff members talk about their growth, people that have been with me forever, like Dr. Karen Reese, and then newer people, like one of our newest hires, Jonathan wrote a letter to us. I said, can I have a copy of that?
It was dynamic.
It was just really dynamic, about an organization where he works for a supervisor who answers to a black man, who answers to a black man, who answers to a black man. Where does that chain happen? And I just started thinking, man, we're changing the game rather than just complaining about it. But that space was so affirming and so exciting that I felt really good about that. But I just think, just because I'm nostalgic, change is difficult. The other part of it is, oh geez, that means there must be something else I'm supposed to do that I couldn't do while carrying this. What does that portend? So that started frightening me, and now I have no excuses of having this other rent that's being spaces being rented inside my head. So, but since the gathering this Monday, I've been able to accept the joy of this process. The other thing is, I think that there are visionaries, but then I think that there are transformational visionaries. And so what I realized that I don't just think about ideas, but like these things happen. And I didn't really know the difference. And so I think for a long time, I just treated like a visionary, like, oh, he just got another idea, until Nehemiah started happening, Justified Anger, the history class, like stuff, the center, stuff started happening. So that's the thing, I need to keep my mouth shut. Like, I need to stop saying, saying these ideas. But we don't for transformational visionaries, we don't always know the expiration date. So a lot of us will do what we do until either we die, or we burn and crash, or like with Microsoft or Apple, your board says, all right, go over there in the research and development corner and make up some new stuff, but you're not going to mess up the day-to-day. To be able to step away while my health is good, my family's good, and to be able to not only witness the success of my successor, but to assure it by being around, not being in the way, but just encouraging and being a resource, feels really, really affirming. And because my role is sort of like, if you've served like in certain kinds of organizations, I'm serving as one in my fraternity. I'm the president, but I then go into immediate past president. Well, that's like a role. I didn't know this. I just thought it meant like you're done. But no, you're there to mentor and help your successor. And this feels like that. This feels like, without being in the way, I get a chance to inspire and cheer and encourage, but not have to be on the front line for thinking. And I realize my true role has been just thinking and planning. And when that's not my responsibility, I was surprised at how alleviated I felt, because I haven't really learned how to quantify vision and how to qualify it. So because they're ideas and those lead to relationships, that's just how I navigate the world. But when it was announced that I don't have to do that anymore, it wasn't the release of hours that changed my life, but the fact that I don't have to take that home and think about it when I'm not thinking about it has been the greatest change. And I feel the relief and the energy of not having or not needing to do that. And that feels really, really good. So I'm feeling very excited. And we love talking about this up front, because people always wonder what's the backstory. Did Harry go talk to the board? Maybe. No. Let me stop joking about that. No, not at all. Because I put this in front of the board at least 2 years ago. And Harry didn't know that I was having those discussions with the board. And so I say all of this joke like pushing me out, and nothing can be further from the truth. I just like to say that. But no, nothing can be further from the truth. But the fact that I get to watch something that I founded continue is a tremendous gift, because part of the founder syndrome is that either it crashes when you're gone or becomes something completely different. And for neither to be the case, I feel extremely, not just fortunate, but extremely blessed.
Yeah.
I want to let me just add this little tidbit, this piece. When I brought Harry on, not in this role, Harry served as a consultant for a number of years. But when he became the executive vice president, we got together and he said, so do you want to just maintain this organization, or do you want it to grow? And I said to myself, hey, he's still on probation, right? I can fire him. Like, what does he think I've been doing for the last 25 years? But you know what? I was maintaining it, not growing. I had ideas, but hadn't figured out what the growth plan was. So I was extremely insulted when he asked that question. No, I'm not kidding. I was extremely insulted, because he was suggesting that I wasn't growing it. But in a very honest way, I wasn't, because I didn't know how to. As visionaries, we're catalytic leaders. We're not builders. As much as we want to be, we are not builders. We can build people, and we can build the teams that can get it done. But then we have to be careful to know, when do we step aside to let that happen? And so I said, okay, if I say I just want to maintain, he's going to lose respect for me. But if I say I want to grow, I'm going to lose respect for myself, because I'm admitting. Either way, he in trouble.
Oh, gosh.
Either way, he's in trouble.
Oh, gosh.
And I said, well, I want to grow, right? He put together a growth budget that included firing himself to make that budget work. Because for decades, I was the one that took the salary cuts to make budget work. It wasn't public knowledge. We never talked about it to our donors, something we worked out with the board. But I did that. But for him to come and take that on, and there was no talk of succession, I said, all right, tell me more. And then he had these strategies that were very different. I didn't believe it would work, but I had to trust his role. So, like in the last, you've been here how long?
8 years.
8 years. And so from the time, maybe a year before going into the pandemic, Nehemiah's budget doubled. Like, we've been like this growing organization for years, and our annual budget is almost $2 million. And I remember when it was 50,000. I remember when we got a contract from the county for 300,000 and it doubled Nehemiah. I remember when our budget was 300 and became 600. But that's because he challenged me with a question and put together the plan, even if it meant he would not be a part of it until he built himself back into it. To me, that's serious leadership. That's gutsy leadership. And those are the hands that this organization is in. And so that makes me very, very proud and very grateful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm still mad though.
it's so funny because one, I had no idea. Part of my growth here has been learning how to work with a dynamic visionary leader, because I had never worked with a visionary before. Typically, the people I work with were people who were just doing things, getting it done, right? And in corporate America, if you're a visionary, you don't fare very well because they don't want your new ideas, right? They just want you to do whatever you do.
Few people do.
Right. So what happened was, we were looking at the budget, and Pastor shared with me his big vision, and part of that vision at the time included the center, right, in whatever form it was at that moment. And I was like, man, we can't hold this up with the structure we have now. So I was like, we can do this, but we got to make some changes. And so I put together 2 budgets. And one was a growth budget, right? Like, here's how we can do this incremental. We'll make this work. And the other one was a maintenance budget. But I was like, if we're just going to maintain what we have in the bank and kind of make it, like, you can't afford to keep me. So on one, it didn't. The maintenance budget didn't have me in it, and the growth budget had me in it. And so I was like, Lord, please let him choose option A, please, because otherwise this is it. Like, it's been a good run, but we're done. I'll help you organize this, and then I guess that's it. You know, thanks for the ride. And so it's so funny hearing that. Like, he didn't tell me that right away. Mind you, it was years later before he told me about how he received that. But in my head, it was funny because it wasn't an insult. It was like, I just wanted to execute the vision. Like, what do you dream of? What are you hoping for? And then we'll put a plan together to do either one, right? And I was willing. It was funny. I was talking to my mother about this because she remembers that moment when I told her about, these 2 budgets, and she was like, "I've never heard anybody do that before." She said people will write the founder out before they write themselves out of a budget. So I was like, but if it's a good plan, it's a good plan. It doesn't matter how it impacts me. Like, you got to go with the plan that makes sense, that works. And so anyhow, for me, it was just this is the way you do things. And I was glad, so thankful that we chose the growth budget for so many reasons, not just personal, but just what we've been able to do with Nehemiah's impact and the difference we're able to make in the community. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, and one of the things that I'll ask you a question, sure. Dr. G, because I mentioned like your vision. And so, one, I feel like although my official title is president, I feel like my role is really steward of the vision. And that's been true while you were here, and I think it's going to be true after the fact. But in reality, it's just a portion of your vision, because your vision has spanned, at this point, 3 organizations. I don't know if I want to put a plus on there, but, or 4 if you include the podcast.
Right.
So 4 maybe plus, but I'll let you figure that out. But can you tell me about like the relationship between the center and Nehemiah? Like, can you
Sure.
like help, talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I don't know how accurate this information is, but I heard somewhere that some of the designers of Pixar sort of discussed Monsters Inc. and Cars and Toy Story all at an initial meeting, sort of thinking about one will finance the other. But it was still that creativity, but it played out in different movies. I'm sure the structure is each one is its own LLC or its own freestanding company that's partnering with Pixar. As a visionary, as I mentioned, I don't see expiration dates and I don't see a lot of the lot lines either. Just like when you drive to Illinois or like if you go to, you're going to go to Chicago, you don't necessarily see the line that says you are now entering DuPage County. You are now Chicago. You see a sign, but you don't see a line on the ground. So as I dreamed things 40 years ago, I thought it was all going to happen in Fountain of Life. And then when I started Nehemiah, I thought, oh, this is all going to happen at Nehemiah. And so it's part of the similar vision, like a Pixar vision, but it needs different constructs to hold it. And we weren't sure if Justified Anger was going to be a part of Nehemiah. It was not designed to be in the early days because I didn't want Nehemiah to topple, but I had no home for it. And I said, I'm not creating another agency. And so it took us, what, Dr. Reese? Rich, you were in those days, like years for us to talk about, like, is it going to go together or not? Yes, no, we can't. Like we had so many discussions downstairs. You can't do it. Okay, yeah, you can. And so we just, because I have the vision that I try to find the organizations that encourage it. Justified Anger allowed me to listen to the community, like to the tune of over 700 Black folks. No one in Madison's history has convened more Black people to get data from them than what I've been able to do with my team, probably nowhere around the state. But in that information, we found that people needed to learn more. They need to understand how we got here. But while the community was deciding how it was going to be woke or sleepwalking or one eye open or nightmaring, we needed space for Black people to gather and heal and think and process. And so I wasn't trying to create something new nor an exit plan. My plan was, when I finished at Nehemiah, I wanted to retire. I want to volunteer. I want to lecture. People who know me know that I've been wanting to have like a keynote business, a lecturing business for like 20 years. So I thought that that's what I was preparing for. But as we started planning, I realized this is congruent enough with Nehemiah, but it's different enough that I wouldn't want this to topple Nehemiah. And so the discussion about creating physical space that would help Black people feel at home and a sense of belonging and a place to connect and have mentors, meet kids, and connect with each other was just a byproduct of just thinking and dreaming and listening really to what the Black folks were saying in those listening sessions. So there was not a plan to do anything. I was not trying to create another organization. Like that really was the last thing that I wanted to do. And so, but the work of Nehemiah informed me on how to do that. It gave me access to the Black community. It gave me access to forums. We just kept breaking records. Like Chief Noble Ray said, there's never been a non-elected official-led or police chief-led town hall meeting. There's never been one larger than the Justified Anger town hall meeting. I didn't know that. He told me that. And that was like 600 people. Then the rollout was 1,000 people at the Expo Center. And people kept saying, what's the next report? What's the next thing? And we didn't want to compete with ourselves. And so we didn't know where this thing was going. Then the history class, it was an idea. I was like, hey, Karen, this is what I'm thinking about. If people knew how we got here, I found some professors on campus. They liked the idea. They let me design it. Karen and her team came in and honed it. These are just all ideas that just kept working and kept working. But it also informed that while our allies are learning how we got here, Black people are pining away. And now these are becoming social determinants of health. And we're dying more prematurely. And how do we offset that with more than just social service programs? We realize that in other places where Black people have Black space, we live differently, we fare better. So there was a need for this. And so vision surprises me more than it surprises anyone else. But a visionary without strong implementers like the people and the Fountain Life team on the Nehemiah team who actually make these things happen, whether it's the history class or the budget or the plan or Justified Anger, it just happens and it just falls. I mean, Karen, this is before you started connecting with us with the article. Rich, you were around that Saturday. that original Justified Anger survey form of where you want to be connected did not say Nehemiah on it. Jakisha made me go. She said we held up the meeting because she said there's no agency on this. This is ridiculous. Landed somewhere. So she ran back, printed them next door, and then it said Nehemiah and Justified Anger against what people said we could really do. But to have people who believed in me and walked alongside me has just been incredible. And when I wrote Justified Anger, that was meant to be my swan song. I just completed my my D-Min degree. I want to get out of here. And the community just started connecting and wanting more and wanting me to write and do stuff on radio. But when the community came around the vision for the center, I realized, wow, I really am homegrown. This is where I'm from. This is home. And I don't believe that I could have done that or this anywhere else in the country. I really don't. Not Beloit, not Milwaukee, not Chicago. And so I also just want to take a moment to thank the supporters of Nehemiah for allowing me to grow and work in vision, because I was not trying to work myself out of a job. But Nehemiah also became the back office for the center and did a lot of the work, from accounting to planning to how we structured things. Harry was on an interview panel for my chief operating officer and my chief administrative officer. So I'm deeply grateful to the Nehemiah supporters for believing in that vision and how we move ahead. How I see us working together is that the center is only going to run about 30% of the programs in that facility. The rest will be contracted out by other Black-led entities. And so we're wanting to grow Nehemiah's Justified Anger Leadership Institute into that place, other general leadership development work, other kinds of things where we want to specialize, where we want Nehemiah to be a preferred partner, where we write grants together. We use corporate grants that we're getting to grow Nehemiah's programming. So I still want the center to not just be a physical home, but a place that provides resources for Nehemiah to grow and expand in ways that it hasn't before. And so that's some of the ways in which we will continue to partner. I will remain on the Nehemiah board so that I'm still connected with the organization. And then I'm now officially the President Emeritus. So I want to get a name tag with that on it.
And a parking space.
And a parking space.
So I know we're coming up to the end of our time. So I don't know if you want me to answer this first, or if you want to, but what are you excited about? Because we started off talking about like our feelings, and there's a basket of emotions, but what are you excited about this next season?
I'm excited about being a part of an organization that I'm not going to lead for 35 years. And I'm excited about working myself out of a job way sooner. The other thing I'm excited about is progress in this community that's Black-led. I'm excited to be building upon something that's extremely relational, that acknowledges Black leadership, but also acknowledges our white allies, non-Black allies who've come around us, as if the entire community benefits from this. And I'm excited about making Madison a national example and not just a byword, but making an example of what happens when you follow established, concerned, adept Black leadership. I'm excited about making that a national model, and people are already asking about how we do the things that we've done. And I'm excited about documenting how we've gotten here. There are things that will help us to really continue in this work, that now that maybe we breathe and settle those things down. Our friend Nancy's been helping to capture our history right up to like the current phase. And so we have the framework for this. I know Nancy's waiting for me to bring that across the finish line. And we shall, Nancy, we shall. We're gonna get this done. We're gonna get this done. But to have captured history over the past decades is very, very important. So we don't want to just, I'm excited about not just being a doer of this good work, which is enough, but the fact that we can become the thought leaders by documenting it and capturing it sets us apart. And then in strong partnerships, academic partnerships like the university, like UW just hired me as an adjunct faculty in the African American History Department. I'm grading papers as we speak. But the course is Rebuilding Black Societies through cultural, economic, and social innovation, using Nehemiah Center for Urban Leadership and the Center for Black Excellence and Culture as case studies. And so now our work has been curricularized and it's respected in the academy, and people are writing final papers on the work that you all have supported for decades. And for many leaders, that's key. But for many Black leaders, that is extremely rare to have your work recognized in the academy. And so I'm just looking at making sure that we capture that more, because I think that will become a laboratory, but a place that will help other thriving nonprofits think differently about themselves.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And here, can I just say one other thing about
Please.
what I'm hoping? I'm hoping that our partners, you, our donors, will give Harry the same kind of respect and support that you've given me. That my desire that you realize he really deserves this, he's worked for this, and he cares about this. He cares about the vision, he cares about the community. And so what I think is really important is that you all will continue to support him. And the other thing and then because I often get a chance to like lead this stuff in these sessions. So I want to make sure that I leave the last word for Harry about what he thinks and what he's feeling. And so he doesn't know I'm doing this, but I'm just getting off the stage so he can have that space himself to say whatever we want to say or need to say in closing.
Wow. Okay. Look at that. Thank you. I'll share two things. I'll answer the question what I'm excited about. So one, I'm excited about continued mentorship from Dr. G. So when we started talking about his transition, when he and I started talking about his transition, I didn't assume that I was just going to be given the position, right? I assumed, there's some process, I'll have to qualify for it, but I was willing to put my hat in my name in the hat, right? But we were talking, and I was saying that I was doing some research about it, and I found out that when founders leave organizations and they just leave cold turkey, a lot of times the organizations don't do very well. If founders stay, there might be some more complications, but typically the organizations fare better. The great thing about the relationship that Dr. G and I have is that we don't really have any issues working together. We've been good partners while we work together at Nehemiah, and that partnership is going to continue in many different ways. He doesn't know this, but I'm already talking to his COO about all the stuff that Nehemiah is going to do in the center. So, yes, indeed. Yeah, we already got a list going. So he might be surprised. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited that part of what you all don't see in that leadership development has been Pastor encouraging me, Dr. G encouraging me to pursue my advanced degree. So I'm in year 3 of my PhD program. Thank you. At Pastor's Alumni Association, Baki Graduate University. And but what's interesting is that, one, I say that because sometimes people hear that, they go, oh no, you're finishing your PhD, like, where are you going? And I'm like, no, I'm not going anywhere. Really, I'm excited about taking that, and it's in innovative urban leadership development. I'm excited about enriching Nehemiah with that information, right? Because there's a phrase that the school used, a scholar practitioner, and that's what I desire to be. I'm not looking to be a professor. I'm not trying to, I'm not leaving Nehemiah like, man, we just put him in, like, where's it going? Like, I'm not going anywhere. I get to use that to enhance the work that we're doing. And so we're in this new phase. We're really trying to make sure that all of our employees are either scholar practitioners or urban scientists, because that's really the direction we were heading in before Dr. G turned the organization over to me, and we're going to continue to do that. And the other thing, and I'll share, there's a question that Pastor asked me before we started. He said, you should probably share some thoughts about this, like, what message you want to give to key donors. And I decided to end with this story. Years ago, I was working at a gas station, and it was Monday morning, and a construction worker, a regular that came in all the time, comes in, and he's got like a big Ford pickup truck, like a F-350 or something, and he digs into his pocket, and he pours out change and on the counter, and he goes, let me get, and he counts out like $3.28 on pump 2. And I'm like, man, it's Monday morning. This guy's got a big pickup truck, and he's got $3 and some change to put in this tank. I'm thinking, how's he going to make it? And I'm thinking, man, he must really be, it must be hard times. This guy doesn't have the money to like put a full tank of gas in his car. And before I can finish feeling sorry for this guy, I ring him up and he reaches into his other pocket, pulls out a wad of cash and says, all right, give me a carton of Marlboro Reds, right? And I go, oh, so it's not that he doesn't have money. It's just that he's putting it where he wants to. Like, he's not worried about that gas as much. He may not be able to get to work, but he was definitely gonna make sure he could smoke, right? And so I hope that our key donors are like that Marlboro man, that no matter what, you're going to put your money where your heart is, and that Nehemiah is there, right? That even if you got to put pennies in that gas tank, that you're going to support Nehemiah with your heart and your cash, because we will need it. But in all seriousness, having supporters that support us no matter what gives us the courage and the ability to be who we are without having to compromise because we're chasing money. So thank you all for that. We really appreciate it.